Oh my god! 50 viewers? How could it be? Whoa. Alright, so we're starting off with a 113. As you can see, my stats are pretty trash in it. But that will change. That will change. This nice, calming acoustic music as the vibrational energy flows through your body. May the frequency align with your consciousness. And let the toxicity ooze out of your body as you enter a state of bliss, a state of calm, a state of being. Yes. The game is merely pixels on a screen and nothing more. It cannot affect you. It cannot personally attack you. It is simply a game. And as all games go, they are pieces of fiction. They are not reality. For reality is something more than what the materialist could ever understand. Reality is much more beautiful than just brute force, dumb mechanisms which occur in life. No, there is more. There is more than to simply play a video game. A video game is merely a distraction. It is merely a distraction from what matters most in life. You can cry, you can laugh, you can shout, and yet it is merely a game. A game of playing yourself. A game of wasting your time away as people around you shake their heads in disagreement. No one has a positive perception on video games. Of course not. Of course not. One can hack, one can try their hardest, and yet they are fooling themselves. They are playing the game to feel superior, to only feel inferior. That is the reason why there is so much dysfunctionality. The game cannot hurt you, only you can hurt yourself. And as the music progresses, the gameplay continues. But if the gameplay continues, then what's the point of progressing? What's the point of playing a pixel game? What is the point of even streaming on a platform? These are questions that no one will ask. These are questions that you will not get answers to. It is a game after all. And what is the point of the game? The point of a game is to enjoy the experience and savor every last bit of it, right? But no. No, most games these days have devolved into mindless competition. The type of competition that drives one mad. The type of competition which makes you rage, which makes you want to break your keyboard in frustration. Ah, World of Tanks. Poetically terrible. As it ruins your life. As the artillery bangs you in the ass. And you scream. You scream and you try, but nah. You can't do shit. Ah yes, thus is the nature of video games. Video games are purposely designed for you to be salty, for you to get salty. Alright? And once it's purposely designed that way, so you spend money. You spend loads and loads of money. You spend your whole entire life savings on a pixel game. All in the hope of trying to recapture some kind of childish memory you had of the game. Maybe you grew fond of it when you were younger. But all I want to do is really to conquer this addiction, is to conquer this plague on my existence. And one of those ways is to, well, treat it not as a game, but as a joke. Because this game is a joke. The community is a joke. The toxicity in the NA server is a joke. It's pathetic. Alright, it's pathetic. We have 30 people sitting at their computers, clicking on a fucking keyboard, and hoping that they might recapture some of that excitement that they felt when they were younger. Either that, or, you know, it's a nice weekend day. You know, you wanna have some fun. You wanna chill, right? You wanna play some video games. You know, you want to forget about your job and your responsibilities and just let the game control you, all the while you are wasting your life away as a sad and pathetic fucking piece of shit. It's kind of ironic. It's kind of ironic. You live your whole life, and then what do? The moment you see something remotely addictive and you cling on to that, you latch onto that, and then you let that consume you. All things must be done in moderation, but there are just some things that, well, no matter how much you try to moderate, oh my, it just simply doesn't work. This game is as frustrating to play as real life. It puts you in a shitty situation and you only get one chance. And if you die, oh man, it's all on you. The pressure is all on you. There are no respawns. So in many ways, this game is extremely hard to play. It's extremely rage-inducing. You see the red colors? The red colors mixed with all the sounds and all that atmospheric feel. It's designed to drive you fucking insane. It's designed that way, purposely. So that you'll get hooked. So that you'll feel bad about yourself. So that you'll feel like you're inadequate, that you're not good enough. And then you get fucked over and over and over again. And all for what? For some cheap excitement. For some cheap excitement. And as you die once again, there is rebirth. It is not dying that is the problem, it's the mindset that's the issue. If you complain about your team, what are they gonna do? They're gonna continue to do what they're doing. They couldn't give less of a fuck if someone was pointing a gun to their heads. Nah. They're just playing the game like everyone else. You get fucked, and then you do some stupid ass shit, and then you lose, and then you get fucked, and then you do some stupid ass shit, and then you still lose. No matter how hard you fight, you always lose. The game is designed that way. So that if you do have some amount of excitement playing the game, it's only short-lived. It is only short-lived. As the pixels on the screen collide together, forming shapes and objects in various forms. Ah, yes. Life life as it is. And as we join into what looks like a platoon, oh well. Ah yes, numbers on a screen. These numbers on the screen create sensations in the body. They create feelings of want. You see a red pixel, you see another pixel, and that determines how you view yourself, you view life. You feel like without that number increasing constantly, that you will feel discontent, that you will feel like something's missing, something odd is happening. And yet, people play this game. Ah yes, people complaining in chat about a system that they cannot have control over. People complaining about things that really are simple to solve. Simply uninstall the game. And if you uninstall the game, you'll deal with all your issues. Just uninstall game. Easy. Simple as that. You don't have to force yourself to play this game. It is a choice to play this game. It is not mandatory. There is no external force that is determining your life situation. No. 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 It's merely your ego latching on to something that it cannot possibly maintain. This game will die in a couple years, and I know that. This game will die. And so will you. But death is not death without death. No. Death is not physical. Death of the mind is what I'm speaking of. Death of perception, ideology, ego, the infectious plague that we drive ourselves down into the pit with. Ah yes. It is our manifestation of our own demons. The manifestation is apparent in every corner that you go down, in every avenue that you take. Yes, life. People can complain. And they can complain, but in the end, they will not solve their issues. Deep insecurities riddle these folks. They want something. They want something more in life. Whether that be pursuit of material gain or religious ideology. They want something. These people want to have fun, right? But instead of going outside, hanging out with your friends, doing something productive, no. Let's sit inside and play a good old video game. Ah yes, video games. Games that require patience. Games that require concentration. The good only become more skilled, while the inadequate become frustrated, angry, and aggressive because they cannot possibly learn to be patient. And in essence, the sounds of the tanks, the atmosphere, the chirping of the birds, sometimes that is more beautiful than shooting a metal vehicle. Sometimes it's appreciating the little details, the crack in the wall, the staining of the glass, the boarded up doors, the little details the developers put into the game to give it the richness that it has, instead of focusing on damage and win rate and all these other extraneous factors. We should instead appreciate a game for what it is. Appreciate the fact that thousands and thousands of hours have gone into creating and developing this game for us to consume. And then we shall get over it. Ah yes, artillery. Artillery players are like regular players. They just want to have fun. And their way of having fun is being sadistical as fuck. You know? They click on a mouse, they drag their mouse over to you, and they shit on you. They click one button and they ruin your day. You let that get you angry. I find that quite pathetic. I find that quite pathetic. But the thing about World of Tanks is, shit, you don't have to be aggressive. You don't have to be aggressive. You can just simply wait. Wait for the right opportunities. Because being aggressive, nah, that doesn't really work, does it now? No. See, like this IS-7, he has made a mistake. He has let his ego consume him. His anger, his aggression, his pent-up insecurities for not being good enough. You know? For not being good enough. For being underappreciated. Lack of self-love. He needs more self-love in his life. He needs to appreciate life more. And so do these artillery players. They need to grow out of their ways. Their selfish, egotistical ways. For that is the only way to grow, is to become more selfless. And if it takes years and years and years of hard effort, it is worth it. In the end, it is worth it. See, artillery, they try so hard to shit on you. And yet, they can't shit on me. They cannot shit on me. It is something called an indestructible object in a video game. Something about that just makes me laugh, makes me chuckle. To see that it's just a game. It's just pixels on a screen. If you want to improve, you can improve. If you want to get good, go ahead. Go ahead. There is no pressure. You have all the time in the world. You have all the lifetimes, all the generations, all the reincarnations. All is well. It is merely a game. And people get caught up about rules and regulation and restriction, and yet sometimes freedom, bliss can be achieved without torturing the self, torturing the mind over petty squabbles, day in, day out, day in, day out. It takes patience and maturity. It takes effort. It takes acceptance. One can cry, one can moan, and one can complain, and yet an odd sense of peace comes over the mind. It is that feeling which allows you to be in the zone. All emotions fade away. All judgments cease to bother you. And you are left in a state of peace, in a state of bliss. And as the game winds to an end, all one can do is wonder, why? Why play this game? Why put yourself through all this just to let karma seep into... Oh my god. Simply to let karma take its route. And to let things be as is. All is well. If you complain, it only makes it worse. It only makes it worse. The video game does not control you. The video game does not consume you. You have the ability to break out of the addiction. Thus is life. Thus is life. That was actually a pretty good game. Pretty interesting. I used patience and calm to direct my behavior, to direct my actions, and in the end, it has paid off. It has paid off. Ah yes. Rewards, incentives to keep playing the game. The developers of Wargaming want you to keep playing the game. They want you to get stuck in the paradigm that it's a necessity. And yet, is it really a necessity? This is a good score. This is quite a good score. See the white outline on the red backdrop? The color red just has the most powerful ability to incite addictive behavior, mixed with orange and yellow and other flashy colors to trigger an inner desire to consume, to let the game consume you. And as you click on the red battle button, what are you doing in that situation? You are letting the game consume you. Unless you do not let the game consume you and instead play the game with awareness. Playing the game with awareness is the key to getting better, because patience is a virtue. Patience is one of the most important things to learn in life, but also in World of Tanks. Let the deep healing music allow you to be at calm. It has certainly allowed me to be at calm. It has the ability to heal, even in the face of mass illusion. For video game is a very well constructed illusion. It makes you feel like you're missing out on something. They always bring you back to buy more. All the premium vehicles, all the premium time, all the loot boxes, the premium ammunition, all of which are just there to make you want to buy and consume more content. But we cannot have a truly good game if we don't listen to the fan base, to the community. We cannot truly have a game worth playing if there is no incentive to play the game, if there's no incentive to come back to the game, because all the attempts are pitiful and lackluster. But that's not to say we should bring back an older version of WoT. No, we should innovate and we should move forward with a passion, with a deeply stated love for the community, but sadly that is not the case. That is simply not the case. People play this game because they want to shit on other people. They play this game because it's fun ruining someone's day, making someone angry, gaining something out of nothing, getting a pixel on your tank barrel, getting a mark of excellence is so important. And yet, that is how people enjoy the game. So you cannot complain. You cannot complain. It is what makes them happy, or at least temporarily satisfied. And everyone has their ways. Everyone has a way to get that tiny bit of excitement back. Ah, yes. Russian tanks. People like to make jokes. People like to say that there's Russian bias, but in reality, it's simply skill. Skill and, most importantly, patience. Impatience is usually what allows you to succeed. Another person's impatience is your gain, and your impatience is another person's gain. That is how this game is designed. It is designed purposefully so that you will make a mistake. There are no perfect strategies, and one mistake can spell certain death. And yet there's a certain beauty to that. A certain beauty to living only once in a game. To cherish every moment that you are in the game, playing the vehicle of your dreams. That is a beautiful sensation. That is what captures people's attention. But it is also what captures people's anger, people's spitefulness, people's rage. To cling on to what is impermanent is a mistake. And yet, wargaming likes to think that we are all stupid in that way. They like to think that we are all sheep-minded, and yet we are not. And yet we are not. To be at calm and to be at rest when playing a stressful match of WoT is very, very crucial. It allows you to just be at ease. It allows you to enter a meditative trance. You don't get angry. You don't get mad. You simply play the game as it's supposed to be played, with perfect calm and perfect peace. For without peace, there cannot be this game. There cannot be this game. And as the match draws to an end, the peace radiates from within, despite the violent nature of a video game. Despite all the toxic competition and meaningless pixels which drive the individual to continue driving themselves to insanity. But that is not the case here. That is not the case here. The point of playing this game is to enjoy the moment. Nothing more. It is simply to enjoy the moment. And it's a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing. Being alive, being in this world, being able to breathe every morning, taking in that winter air, and as spring approaches, the birds in the trees, the way the water splashes on the ground, the mist that fills the air, the sensations that it brings in your body. Utterly blissful. Utterly blissful. One can simply not get mad. One can simply not care. Not care whether or not they're good, bad, unicum, or not. This game can teach you very valuable things. And it can also destroy you. Just like drugs, heroin, crack, cocaine, speed, all these nicknames, Molly, Percocets. And yet, there is just something about shrooms, acid, DMT, ayahuasca. These substances are different. They have different properties. They're chemically different. And they produce a very interesting psychedelic experience. Ah, yes. The chirping of the birds. The sound of tracks rolling across the floor. The fire of a cannon. The splash of the shell as it hits the wall. The ding of a ricochet. All these sounds and pixels and visual information creates the experience that we know as World of Tanks. But really, it applies to any video game. Not just World of Tanks. And if you think about it, every game is just a collection of pixels, sounds, visual information. And most importantly, the community that makes up the game. The people who choose to play the game. The compilations, the rage, all of it. All of it creates the very atmosphere that this is centered in. Why be competitive? Why choose to play this game? It's a very interesting question. In fact, why pursue any game? Why pursue life when you have distraction? Distraction is in all of us. It fuels our behaviors. It dictates our life. And yet, And yet all is well. All is well. Meditation is a very powerful technique to be calm in adversities, to allow the silence to seep through your veins as everyone around you is dysfunctional, angry, and bitter. Bitter with the torment that they bring upon themselves. And yet, one can simply choose. One can choose to overcome such obstacles. Life is beautiful because there are choices you can make. You don't have to be stuck. The beauty of video games is that they are not permanent. You can uninstall anytime you want. That's amazing. Having the ability to determine what you want to do. Having the ability to realize that the game isn't your enemy. The game is your friend. A warm, comforting blanket of fun, or at least what's left of fun, what's left of that spark, that joy that you once had in the game that is now gone. In fact, I believe many people are still trying to find that purpose that fuels us all, that allows us to wake up in the morning and pursue the dreams we want to pursue. And yet, what is stopping us humans from doing what we want to do? To do the thing that we fear the most. To step out of our comfort zones and finally take action. What is preventing us from doing so? Well, it is fear. Fear of the future. Fear that you might make a mistake. Fear that you're not good enough. That you'll never be good enough. Fear that your parents will say something. Fear that society will say something, and yet all is well. All is well. One can learn to conquer their emotion of fear. One can learn to heal in the midst of their own turmoil. For it is merely an illusion. Humans possess the ability to enact change upon themselves. It is central to development, to grow your sense of selflessness and to rid yourself of all the traumas, all the insecurities of past experiences, of past interactions. People will get angry. Let them get angry. People will get pissed off. Let them get pissed off. It will pass. As with all things, it will pass. I will pass. This game will pass. The people in this match will pass. They'll move on. They'll get a job. They'll get a wife. They'll have kids probably. They might already have kids. Or they're single. Single males playing in the room from which they came from. People who believe that it's normal to sit for hours and hours on end every day playing a game. Playing a game. And yet, that is the beauty of video games. It's like a fairy wonderland. A bullshit escape from your responsibilities. I'm sure this FV4202 driver on the enemy team was thinking the same thing. He was like, yeah, let's take advantage of a player in a video game. I might not know this player personally, but yeah, let's shit on him. Let's make his day a little worse. Let's play artillery and fuck people over because y'all just enjoy other people's suffering. And yet the people of this community interesting. All right. I shall take out the 113 once more. Into battle we go. Another journey we begin. Ah, yes. The ignorant mind of a World of Tanks player. As they try to assert their dominance on the weak. As they try to assert their masculinity on the feeble-minded. As the whole entire enemy team YOLOs down one flank. In hopes that it will achieve something. When in reality, it is sure to lead to a torturous loss. Ah, yes. Chat spam. What can one do in such a situation? Not much. And yet, all is calm. All is well. The team will play it out. The enemies will make a mistake. And you will wait. You will wait for them to approach. For being aggressive is certain death. And yet, there is a beauty in dying. There is a beauty in rebirth. All is not lost. For there is still hope. There is still opportunity to be had. As the moss grows on the deformed rock, the vibes of this music, the scenery, the atmosphere, it is all pure bliss. It cannot be replicated. It cannot be changed. It is wonderful the way it is. It's amazing how one can feel so angry. So angry as to play this game out of pure hatred for another human being. Why else would you shit on people so much? Why else? It is merely a game. And as I get shitted on by Ichi, one can only see the absurdity in the situation. One can only see the absurdity. Patience. Patience is all that this requires. They will make a pressure. Their anger inside of them will get the best of them, and they will attempt something. And if not, well, then I can simply enjoy the scenery. As artificial as it is, as subjectively beautiful as it is, well, it is simply what it is. A game of World of Tanks cannot be won if one is in a sour mood. If one cannot keep their cool, then playing this game would be a mistake. For what is the joy in playing a game that makes you angry, spiteful, and bitter inside? Isn't the point of playing a video game to have fun? Right? That is the point. And yet, people only find joy in that competition of performing well in a battle, of becoming a purple Unicum player. But if that is what is on one's mind at all times, then one cannot enjoy the experience of being average. One doesn't need to be the very best You only need to enjoy the experience as it gives way to new experiences. For it is a game, and you can interpret the game however you please. That is the beauty of human creation. Indeed. Ah, yes. This was quite a good performance. And yet, statistics don't bother me. Not as much as they used to. And I believe that is a very important thing to learn when playing this game, is to not let statistics become the epicenter of your existence. Statistics aren't the only thing in this game. There is also the scenery, the graphic design, even if you have a potato computer, even if you don't appreciate these things, there are still things to be found in life, in everything, in existence. I can play this game all I want, and yet what I am missing is more than just excitement. The dull excitement that this game produces is simply not enough. It is merely a game. A game of spamming heat. A game of trying to one-up other people. And yet when you're not trying to one-up other people, that is when you are in the zone. That is where you are able to perform at your highest level. There is no shame in being patient. And there will never be shame in being patient. Patience is a virtue. Ah, yes. The frustration can come quick, as it often does. One simple misplay, one simple mistake, and all of a sudden, all the development that you've attempted to perform on yourself has been mitigated. Mitigated by the fact that you got pissed off at somebody. Pissed off because you couldn't perform. And the cycle continues. The cycle continues. This WZ will make a mistake. He will get tired of being in that position, and he will decide to move. All that's left is for him to make a move. Or rather, your teammates to make a mistake. Ah, yes, he is still sitting in the same position. There is not much what I can do here. So I shall wait. See? There is no need to be aggressive. There is simply no need. Ah, yes. Statistics is what these people care about. This artillery player finds joy in ruining our game. And yet, that is what happens. That is what happens in a game filled with opportunity and in a game filled with malevolence. We will lose this game, and I am sure of it. But every loss is in the end a victory in its own right. There is no shame in losing. There is no shame in a defeat. One does not need to be the best. For trying to be the best is like trying to emulate something that cannot be emulated. Trying to be the smartest, the most brightest individual in the face of adversity. And yet, what is that but faking the self? Faking the personality until they achieve their desired result. But alas, that is unsustainable. Alas. I will die here, and I understand that. And yet, there's a certain understanding. Ah, yes. One's rage consumes them. They do not understand the greater meaning of anything. Instead, they are caught up in their own personal vices. Ah yes, a tier 10 match. One of the most important things to learn when playing this game is to not care about the matchup that you are placed in. For caring about the matchup you are placed in is certain loss. It is a guaranteed way of self-sabotage. Instead, one must focus on the task at hand, which is making the best out of any situation, no matter how toxic it might be, no matter how undesirable the situation is. To stay calm in the face of adversities is a skill to master. It is a skill to develop. And as I develop it right here, I shall improve massively in terms of gameplay. Only time will tell. Only time will tell. As I make my way up, I can't help but feel a sense of calm wash over me. An odd sensation. One that, quite frankly, I barely feel, but there is just something about being at ease. Something about that experience is captivating in and of itself. The slow, melodic tone allows the mind to calm down, to wind down from its toxic ways. And instead of hating the circumstance, it accepts the circumstance as mindfulness attempts to recapture this sensation. And the only way to play a game to the highest of your ability is to be mindful. Otherwise you will fail again and again. You will wonder why you are failing. But the answer is simple. You are making a mistake. The answer is simple. Stupidity and arrogance are no way to play a game. It is simply not worth it. Ah yes, this guy can shoot me, and he can shoot me again. And yet, it is not affecting the overall reason for playing this game. I can die, and I can cry, and I can complain, but in the end, that does not do anything. Not for me, not for anyone else. You simply cannot change the circumstance. You only can accept it for what it is. That is the only way. And as our team collapses, as the enemies come closer to victory, one can only stand their ground and do whatever they can. As this game comes to a close. As everything melts away in a fury of color and sound. So the last bit of HP is drained from your body, and the game is over. Ah yes, the complaints roll in as expected. They simply cannot deal with their life situation. In order to improve, you must accept, even if it is a loss. One can only try. One can only try their hardest. All right. Let's go. Ah yes, Empire's Border. The most fitting map for a Chinese tank. Its natural habitat. The natural predator in its natural habitat. Waiting. Simply waiting for enemies to make a mistake. We shall see what occurs in this matchup. Ah yes, there are 3 artilleries on the enemy team. And yet, artillery is the least of your concerns. What is more concerning is, well, years and years and years of psychological torment. One's own neuroses is really what is at play here. Not some player in a game, not a tank shooting another tank. The game is just a game. No. The real issue lies with one's inability to cope with their own personal demons. Ah, yes. This game is particularly tryhardy for a reason. It is not friendly to a noob, to someone inexperienced. No. Of course not. All is well. What is required is patience. Because enemies will make a mistake. Artillery will choose another target. You are not the priority. Oh. Luckily, the enemy team cannot do anything to me as I am face-hugging a rock. One breath at a time. Indeed, he has made a mistake. Enemies do not have infinite patience, and they will choose to be aggressive when they feel like it is not enough to wait. Fuck. Oh well. All is well. All is well. Greediness consumes this player. And yet, all is well. Artillery will simply shoot at another target. It is greediness that allows players to ruin their games. It is artillery that allows players to experience massive amounts of hatred. And yet, it is merely a game. Life is very much like this desert. You blow in the wind. You are a little grain of sand in a vast valley of infinite consciousness. This little grain of sand tries to distinguish itself from other grains of sand, trying and trying to make sense of itself, but at the same time failing to recognize that it is unified and it is a part of everything. What surrounds it, what creates it, what envelops the grain of sand. People often get caught up in mindless competition. This doesn't just apply to video games. This applies to every other field of existence. People compete for survival, for money, for fame, for wealth, for love. People crave attention. For they do not understand. In reality, it is not material objects that they crave. It is really unity that they crave. in a field of division. Unity is what they crave. To become infinite consciousness. In the midst of mass illusion, systematic brainwashing of society that has occurred within the past several hundred years. It is quite unfortunate that such things had to happen, but alas, there is a reason. For the human ego is frail. The ego doesn't accept change, difference. The only thing that it craves is the very things that keeps it alive. Attachments, as these attachments can be practically anything. Whether that be games, food, people. It is not limited to any of these things. People want to take. People want to escape reality through the cheapest means possible. And yet, that doesn't work, does it now? No, it doesn't. It is simply unsustainable to live this kind of existence. To be so unappreciative and pessimistic. Anger is just another subset of fear. And yet anger is love. Love that is not limited to human emotion, rather love that is absolute, unbiased, and unconditional. And this self-love is the very thing that people lack in modern day society. Thus is the curse of the modern education system. People simply do not learn some of the most important lessons to be learned. Instead, we care about arbitrary facts, numbers, and pieces of information that serve no purpose other than to complete some requirement or standardized measurement of ability and success. And as our planet slowly diminishes, as our resources slowly fade away, one can only think it absurd that we complain about taxes and mortgage and family when we cannot think of anything higher than our own petty lives. That is our curse. Our curse is our lack of selflessness. Indeed. To learn to be selfless is a daunting task. People do not want to give up what they have built over years and years of hard work and effort. People believe that is threatening to their very existence, as if you were taking away a part of them, a appendix or a body part. As if it were a matter of life and death, when considering a simple situation. And yet what is broken can still heal. What was once treacherous can become the very opposite of its definition. Indeed. Ah, yes. A perceived reward for a decent performance. The sea of infinite distraction is a very expansive plane of suffering. I know this because I myself have experienced what can be the most traumatic and painful experiences. Undescribable actions that have occurred in my time in this fantasy of a reality. There are very many things that we will regret, that we all go through. And yet, all is well. Pain is a necessary component for growth. If it weren't for suffering, one could simply not learn the lessons that they could possibly learn otherwise, that they couldn't possibly learn otherwise. And yet modern day society is afraid. Modern day society doesn't value spirituality, consciousness, mindfulness. No. Society in this current age does not appreciate the fact that they are impermanent. They try to latch on to things that will come and go. They try, and they try. But that ultimately leaves you hollow. A unsustainable way of living. It is. And yet, the word has not spread. The word is kept silent, hidden from the masses. This greater unification of consciousness is ultimately what will happen. Every form ultimately has to reunite as one, for it is simply the case. And that's the beauty of life, is its impermanence. No form has the capability of existing forever. Form which becomes something different, something new. The ground which you live on is the ground which another creature lived on, and that creature became the ground. It also became the rocks, the stone, and the very computer that you are looking at right now, that I am looking at right now. There is no other. There is only the self, the true self. Loneliness for eternity. And yet, there is a certain beauty in this loneliness, this oneness. It brings a joyous smile to my face as I think about it. To know that even if you are alone, there is no reason to feel sad. There is no reason to feel spiteful. Simply let it be. Let everything be. It is isness, form which is exactly what it is. Nothing more, nothing less. Free from all deception. Many people are too introverted to reach out for help, for guidance, for assistance. There are people who have grown far, far too afraid, either because of torment they experienced as a child, or irrational fears which sprung up sometime in their adolescence. Maybe they were bullied, mistreated, abandoned, and ridiculed by society. They became cold, cynical, and hollow. Call them what you may, a doomer, a pessimist, a depressed person. And yet, why do they remain the way they are? Do they not understand the fact that what they prescribe as introversion, that word that they give so much significance to, is simply a construct of their own imagination? A misinterpretation of something they do not quite understand. And yet, these people will grow out of it. It is unsustainable. They will have their time. All is well. This is a loss. There was nothing more I could do about it, but all is well. To not let something as simple as a loss disturb the mind is a very important lesson. You cannot win everything. You cannot gain everything. Materialism is not equivalent to happiness. True happiness is what it is. Words do no justice. Words only perpetuate one's illusions. One can try, and one must try, but it is simply not enough. It's quite funny. Interesting. But the beauty in it is, the more you do it, the better you get at it, the better you become. That is, if you do it consciously. However, if one attempts to play this game unconsciously, they will fail. It simply doesn't work. Not like that. Oh, what the fuck? All is well. As I travel this path with only one IS-2 as support, I realize that there are just some things you do not do in this game. One cannot expect your teammates, cannot expect their teammates to perform at the level that they are performing at. For if everyone played this game with peace and calm, it would be a much different environment. The game would be more enjoyable. It would be more peaceful. The calm and the quiet of the sounds, the tanks, the gameplay would be interesting. It would create a very interesting dynamic. And this game creates its unique atmosphere. There's just something about it. Something about this game that is so encapsulating, so invigorating. Perhaps it's the music. Perhaps it is. Music has a very strong impact on the mind and the psyche. And oftentimes it only takes a switch in tone, a shift in sound, a difference as minuscule as a sound wave to allow one to transcend into a state of bliss, a state of pure calm. And that is what one needs to play this game. Not anger, violence, and spitefulness, but rather acceptance and calm. An unnatural amount of calm. Unparalleled to anything one can ever experience in their lifetimes. As I slowly die in front of enemy vehicles, unable to budge, unable to do anything as our team melts away. but all is well. To see the beauty even in defeat is amazing. It requires an immense amount of will, but such is doable. The impossibility becomes a possibility once more. No matter what the matchup, no matter what the circumstance, no matter what the situation, one shall learn to persevere through it all. Even in the face of adversity. The dull, mundane cycle of life can get to the mind. It can pull the mind down into the deepest pits of depression, unparalleled to anything one can ever experience. A 9-to-5 job can tear one apart. Working day in, day out, day in, day out. And for what? For a paycheck. For the ability to put some food on the table. For the ability to say that one did something with their life, only to realize that they have achieved practically nothing. Only to realize that their efforts were futile in trying to, but in believing that money would do something for a person. And yet, does it really? No, it doesn't. Certainly not. The only purpose for it is to survive, to meet your basic survival needs. And yet life is more purposeful than just to simply live, to simply obtain as many objects as possible. And yet words, playing with the words is quite pointless. The endless repetition, the sound of vowels and syllables as they roll off a person's tongue. It simply isn't enough. There are just some experiences that are beyond human communication, that are beyond just symbols on a sheet of paper, symbols coming through one's earphone. No, there are just certain things that can only be experienced. Indeed. It is merely a game, after all. merely a game. A game that people play for entertainment or for competitive reasons. But ultimately, it is the inner child within adults which leads them to continue playing the game. The inner want to have fun, as temporary as this game gets. Temporary relief. And as the time ticks down, there is no pressure. There is no adrenaline. What there is isness. The ability to stay peaceful. Even as everything falls apart around you. It is this poetic identity, this inner beauty that is truly amazing. And yet, all is well. All is well. He will try to flank. This Foch will try to flank. And I will die. With 4.3k damage. Because that is how things go. That is how things go. One cannot win everything. As intense as that game was, there was a very valuable lesson to be learned. 4k damage in a tier 10 game against tier 8s. Lost most of your hit points to artillery. And yet, still managed to perform. I shall try my luck once more. See where inner peace can get me, for it has worked quite effectively so far. In fact, I feel a massive improvement in gameplay already, simply by being in the moment and being unnaturally calm. Because it is the way it is. Patience. patience. There is a technique. There is definitely a technique to enter a state of calm. There are many breathing techniques out there. There's the Wim Hof method, which allows you to enter a state of mind which allows you to withstand even the coldest of temperatures. There is various yogic traditions, meditative traditions, and practices which one can adopt and develop to help them be in the moment. Breath is a very important thing, especially if you are a gamer. Simply learning how to breathe is enough to change everything. Simply learning how to be calm and in the moment. And yet one cannot possibly expect to be well, there is not much I can do in this situation. I have been ammo ranked. I am about to be gangbanged, and well, it's unfortunate as it is. But alas, there is not much what you can do about this. With every loss, there is another loss. It is simply the case. If you overcommit, you pay the price. If you don't commit, you still pay the price. If you camp like a tank destroyer, you are called a noob. If you try to play like a tank, you get fucked. And yet, there's a certain priceless truth in the misery of an average World of Tanks player. And that's to learn teamwork rather than individualism. See, the point of this game is to work together, not to work by yourself. Because even if you have the best stats, it doesn't mean shit. If I am able to get to 2 marks of excellence on the Lerva today, that would be a nice treat. But that is not the sole purpose why I am playing this game. I am playing this game because I am playing this game. There doesn't need to be an in-depth explanation. Sometimes you just play the game to play the game. It is what it is. there's just a certain experience. There's just something about playing the game, but then to think more expansively about life and simply using the game as a way of relaxing the mind and to allow for greater thought. But really, that is the point of this stream, is to allow for greater thoughts, to allow for greater contemplation of life itself. For that is one of the most important things that you can do. If that means deriving your own meaning from occurrences, then so be it. If that means taking risks, doing some psychedelics to enter another state of consciousness, then what must be done must be done. But there are laws, there are restrictions, and society holds themselves back. It's the progressive thinkers and the post-modernist radical thinkers who transcend thinking itself. Those are the types of people who really understand what it means for change to occur. Every kid will grow up. Every adult will experience their time. It is simply the case. But that doesn't mean one should recapture times that are long gone, long past. That is a mistake. And yet, all is well. For what can one do? There is simply patience. The enemy will make a stupid mistake. It is bound to occur. Patience. It always pays off. But still, you will get fucked by artillery. Because artillery players do not appreciate hard work and effort. Instead, they want cheap excitement. So they choose the most retarded class to play, and they stick with it. Yes, I know I'm fucked. I've lost all my hit points. And yet, it's that feeling when you're about to die. That's the most interesting sensation. To still be here, even after everything, that is impressive. It truly is. Oh. See? Karma. Yeah. He does not have them. Well, you learn some, and you lose everything. Ah, yes. Well, nice. Hope you get there. Alright, that is it for today. I have out.